journos back at the Newcastle United Media Centre. It's the second video running that we've had to do a take two because we went outside, Newcastle United Media Centre. Shola Amiobi parks up, tries to park his car next to us, which is obviously well within his rights to do.
We were stood
Who are we, really?
We were stood next to a parking bay.
Yes, and then
we're going to have to move
we'll pick some place. Youths came near us.
You were just sensing danger, weren't you, in terms of...
Well, not so much danger, just people wanting to be on camera.
Yeah.
And
you weren't having it. You were gone.
I went, let's start again.
Yeah.
Let's start, go back to Eddie Howe, back to the basics, and Brighton on Sunday at St James's Park. It's a final home game before the Carabao Cup final. But forget about that. We're up for the FA Cup this weekend. Newcastle against Brighton. We'll start with the team news. Big questions asked about Alexander Isak. Callum Wilson a little bit. Muscle memory goes to Callum Wilson every time they talk about injuries. But Sven Botman and Joelinton. So Jordan, what did Eddie Howe have to say about those four players?
Got to start with a biggie.
Yeah.
Callum Wilson.
Yeah.
Got to cut his eye. It's fine.
That's great news, really.
Will he play on Sunday? Now that's the big question because that is subject to Alexander Isak's fitness. And there was a slight update from Eddie Howe this morning, said he hadn't seen him since Liverpool, but will be at the training ground today where they'll have a long discussion, he was saying, with Isak over his injury status, fitness, and then make a decision. Eddie Howe said if he's fit, he'll play. Then that's the question, will he? Because I think if the Carabao Cup final wasn't on the horizon, you probably maybe risk him.
Risk becomes the key word when you've got such important games on the horizon. And Eddie Howe's now said that in 2 successive press conferences about risking Alexander Isak, where Eddie Howe, or as a manager, the next game's always the most important. But when you're talking about your key players and injuries, you almost have to look at the wider picture. And I think that's what Newcastle are doing with Alexander Isak. Will he play?
Unless he's
possibly
he's 100%, I don't think they take the chance because there's look, the Brighton game in its own right is a big opportunity because if you win that, you're one game away from a semi-final, another Wembley appearance, but you've got a much bigger game on the horizon, and I do think, rightly or wrong, it's rightly takes precedence.
Of the next 3 games, I'd argue, and people may disagree with this game is the least important or the most affordable for Alexander Isak to miss, in my opinion. Okay, FA Cup's big and it's a must-win game, but it's still ultimately it's the mid-stage point in the competition. Newcastle have won 2 games to get to this stage. They'd still need to win on Sunday 4 more games if they want to win the competition. So it's still it's relatively speaking early stages of the competition. But they are against a very good side in Brighton, Premier League opposition, who beat Newcastle earlier this season. And Newcastle's record without Alexander Isak in the side against Premier League sides this season is not good. 3 games, no wins, no goals scored from open play. Anthony Gordon's penalty against Man City, the only time. And I think Alexander Isak's absence from the team disrupts Newcastle so much because of his importance to the side. You saw on Wednesday night the fact that to accommodate Callum Wilson being in the side, Anthony Gordon's moved out of position, and he's had to do that previously with Gordon playing him through the middle, whether he's had to bring on Harvey Barnes or someone like that on the left wing. I think it disrupts too much not having Alexander Isak, and I think part of what Eddie Howe was talking about, Newcastle and Alexander Isak, it gets a feeling a little bit where players like, we'll get on to, but players like Bruno, who's previously been almost like an undroppable player for Newcastle, his form's been called into question. Are Newcastle getting a bit of a one-man team sort of thing in their reliance on Alexander Isak and his goals? Because you look, every time Newcastle have won a game in the Premier League since August, it's been contributed to by an Alexander Isak goal.
I think one-man team sounds harsh.
Yeah, Eddie Howe basically said similar.
But when you've got a player like Alexander Isak's quality and you lose him, of course it makes a massive difference. I mean, he's just central, I think, Newcastle do. So I think missing him naturally makes you worse. But I think you should also have enough to then compete without him. Not for a long period, but for the odd game, etc. players coming in, I think that they should have enough to get by for and the backup option they've got in terms of Callum Wilson is a very, very good one. But the problem with Callum Wilson is that he's not match. He's fit, but he's not sharp.
Yeah, well,
he's not in peak condition because he's barely kicked the ball for 12 months longer. First Premier League start of the season and midweek.
Exactly. Yeah.
Birmingham a couple of weeks before that hasn't played a lot of football, and it's really hard to ask a player to perform at peak level when you haven't played very often, and that's what he was asked. I think that's what he's done. I mean, going to Anfield is thrown right in the deep end.
Yeah.
But the only thing that disappointed with Callum Wilson's performance is usually scoring is like sort of his bread and butter and getting in good positions, and he had a chance to do that. He didn't do it. But I think that's probably a lack of rustiness, and the only way you can get him to peak condition, what I keep saying, is by playing him. So probably Sunday is a good opportunity to get more minutes into his belt, more minutes under his belt.
Yeah, I thought Callum Wilson was definitely one of the players. There was a few subject to criticism after the Liverpool game. I think, look, Callum Wilson didn't play particularly well in that Liverpool game, but there are mitigating factors and context to it, and I think you hit the nail on the head there, where you started 3 games in the last 12 months. Like, this is a man who has barely kicked a ball, and Anfield away, Alexander Isak could have played and barely got a sniff. I'm not saying he would have, but Alexander Isak has had games like Callum Wilson had on Wednesday night, earlier in the season anyway. So Callum Wilson, what stands out is the 2 missed one-on-ones. Okay, one was offside, but then you go, well, could he have timed his run better? And then the second one, it's a difficult chance, but I think a fully firing Callum Wilson or Alexander
takes
Isak
it in stride, doesn't he?
Takes it in the stride and potentially scores, at least tests the goalkeeper. But yeah, that was a poor moment. But look, Eddie Howe actually said Callum Wilson played well on Wednesday night, which I'm sure people will disagree with. But look, I think in the context of everything, Callum Wilson, I'd back him to find some sort of form if he gets back to playing regularly. But in an ideal world, as harsh as it sounds, he won't get back to playing regularly because Alexander Isak will be the man, fit and firing, leading the line. And Eddie Howe basically suggested as much. Like, Alexander Isak is, if he's fit, he will play games. He is like almost an undroppable player if he is fully fit in the side, such as his importance. And I'd argue to you, potentially he's the only one, but you brought up another player who I probably agree with, to be fair.
Yeah, Lewis Hall, he's
amazingly undroppable, actually, because a year ago, if you said your 2 undroppable players would be Alexander Isak and Lewis Hall, you go.
Was it around this time last year the revival started? Was it the back end?
Might have been a bit later.
Was it back end of March?
Yeah,
so close enough.
It was West Ham.
Yeah, when he came off the bench and helped, when they were 3-1 down.
Yeah.
No, I mean the last week we've seen both sides to Lewis Hall's game in terms of being an attacking force against Nottingham Forest with 3 assists again. It wasn't, but
3 assists.
But it was his crosses into the box that ultimately led to the 2 goals and then the penalty, and then defensively in midweek to keep. Again, it wasn't perfect, but to keep Mo Salah relatively quiet, which he did. I know Mo Salah got an assist in the end, but that's because Lewis Hall tried to push forward. Tonali loses possession, and then Lewis Hall's tracking back, and Mo Salah in that position is deadly. But I think I've seen comments on Liverpool fans. Probably the quietest I've seen Mo Salah because of how good Lewis Hall was that night. So yeah, he's the undroppable alongside Isak for me. Should we go on to Bruno then before we go on to injuries, because he's probably
because his form very much has been called into question. And I was tempted to ask Eddie Howe about that. Obviously, a couple of my colleagues got in there before me, so I had to reshuffle and then fell back to the Alexander Isak debate and questions about that. So, yeah, Bruno, interesting talking point. He's a player who's missed only 2 games in the last 2 years. Basically starts every week for Newcastle. He's captain. No doubt a very good, very important player for Newcastle. But his form, pretty much since the turn of the year, has been called into question. And I think Newcastle's form or performances in general have probably dipped alongside Bruno's form slightly.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
And yeah, there was some interesting comments from friend of the channel, John Anderson, on BBC Newcastle where he said, look, he thinks he's been awful recently and he looks tired, looks like he's struggling to get through games and run and chase that aggression we previously saw from Bruno. Hospital pass here, Jordan. To what degree do you agree with that sort of assessment? Because this is a Newcastle legend saying that about Bruno. And look, all know Bruno's qualities, but there has been a dip. But you could pick out a few players, but it seems like at the moment Bruno is a bit of a target.
I think it's fair to say that he hasn't looked at his best in recent weeks, but I probably goes for a few other players as well. My stance on Bruno, and it's probably a bit of a bias, but if you want to find out how Newcastle play without Bruno, I wouldn't want that situation to happen, because I think you probably don't realise how integral he is until he's not there. I will die on that hill.
Okay, I will play devil's advocate and say Newcastle's best performance of the season came away at Arsenal without Bruno.
Right, okay. But that was in a moment when Newcastle were they were free flowing at the time.
Yeah.
Momentum.
Yeah. 9
games I think it was the 7th win in a row on a 9-game winning bounce. So I would caveat that with the fact that the team was in a good moment.
Yes. And it wasn't like Joe Willock came in and set the world alight.
Exactly,
he was the one player who
probably
didn't cover himself in a whole lot of glory when he came into the side.
Yeah.
But no, I think Bruno is historically such an important player for Newcastle. I think tiredness is a thing with him. I think that's the
thing you've got to give him real credit for, is his durability. The bloke has barely missed it. Well, hasn't missed a game, has he?
The only games he's missed, he's been forced to miss due to suspension. He's never missed a game due to injury in 2 years.
I don't think he's immune to criticism at all, but I do think...
No, he shouldn't be, though.
No, he's not, because he's getting at the moment in time, and I say it because I don't think he's at his best levels, but I just think for the player that he is, what he brings to the team, not just the way he plays, but just... I think he's took the captaincy in his stride as well. He's sort of like a...
No, because that was called into question, I thought, at the start of the season from a few fans and people on social media and things like that. I think he has taken the armband quite well. There's obviously the big leadership group around him as well, which help out. And Eddie Howe talked about the importance of Kieran Trippier as well, in that, even though he's played more of a backseat role this season. But yeah, it's an interesting one with Bruno, because I think Newcastle are ultimately 9 times out of 10 a better team with Bruno in it, but he probably does need a rest. And I think this game, albeit a very important one, could be the one to do it, just for that reset, just for that go, Bruno, you're not undroppable. Just have, whether it's a substitute appearance on Sunday or something like that, just take him out the side and just go, right, West Ham, Carabao Cup final, that's your focus now. And just reset his mind, reset his body, and then get him ready to go again.
Yeah.
Get that fire in his belly ready.
Yeah, I look, his quality is undoubted. I do think the mental effects of a footballer, that's probably... He probably feels it, he probably knows it for himself that he's not performing to his best, and then you probably you're stuck in your own head at that point.
Yeah. Well, it's become almost a theme, and it's been covered by some of our colleagues in the media as well. I've done a story on it where Bruno coming off, he's been substituted more frequently, and he almost looks dejected when he's coming out, not happy in his own performance, and body language becomes a talking point at that point as well. So yeah, I think Bruno is a player. I have no doubt that he'll get back to his best levels. It's just how you go about doing it. And Eddie Howe didn't quite have the answers. He was pushed on it a few times. He just said, it's hard to say whether Bruno needs a rest, but we need to find a way to get the best out of him, because obviously at the moment they're not.
He'll come again. He's too good of a footballer. As I say, I think even Bruno not at his best now. I know you point at the Arsenal game there, but I just think they're a worse team without him. And I don't think you truly know how good a footballer is until he's not there. And I've said that several times with Bruno. I will die on that hill. But even though I admit that he's not at his best at the moment in time, but I'd still rather have him there than not, because out of in my lifetime, he's probably one of the best midfielders I've seen at Newcastle. My very not short lifetime, I'm only 27, so there will be a lot of people out there who may argue otherwise. But for me, he's definitely one of the best that I've seen. So,
no, I'd agree. And also worth noting that not only has he played a lot of football, he's covered more distance than any player in the Premier League
overlooked as
over
well.
the past 2 years.
I remember there was a pundit a couple of years ago. I think it was
Danny Murphy.
It was Danny Murphy who criticised.
Sorry, Danny, if it wasn't you.
He said he wasn't an athlete, but I mean that run when they won those 9 games off the belt, he was almost a pressing machine. I remember at Old Trafford, he was at night he was excellent. Just a total. You don't associate with Bruno's game, but shows that he's got it. He's not the fastest player in the world, but he's got that sort of desire to really push and press and lead from the midfield. But we just haven't seen much of that over the last few weeks. But I do think it's probably more of a mental thing as well, and it's probably definitely a physical thing because he's there's probably no player in the Newcastle squad that's played more football than him over the last 12 to 18 months, maybe even 2 years.
Yeah.
A constant for Brazil because he'll probably end up jetting off for Brazil after the Carabao Cup final. So there's no respite for him, but they just need to find a way to try and manage him because he's not at his best at the moment, but it will come back. I've got no doubt about it.
He's not the only player as well.
No,
I'd go to someone like Fabian Schär, who's historically been a very consistent top-level performer for Newcastle. His form has dipped almost in tandem with Bruno's as well. So, no player's immune from many criticisms. So, it's just problems Eddie Howe will have to answer. And part of that answer can come in the return of some key players, such as Sven Botman and Joelinton. Will we see them this weekend?
Yeah, they said it was a big day for them today at the training ground, see if they're in a position to be involved.
It's a shame we're not based in the training ground
anymore.
We've been
out by now.
Yeah, we would have been. But sometimes, as part of the reason why we're in this lovely Newcastle United Media Centre, you'd pop out of the old press conference room and you'd see the players training and
Late fitness test. We've seen Callum Wilson there a couple of times.
Yes, I think I caught him on camera once, actually.
Oof.
Yes, I know. Very, very brief. So we would have potentially got a glimpse of a Joelinton or a Sven Botman in training if they were indeed in training. But we don't have that, I say privilege, we don't have that good fortune anymore of being
offside,
sneaky.
Out the way, in the corner. I'll have to wait and find out on Sunday if they're back. But
hey, we're getting a lovely sign outside.
We do, which we're trying to film in front of to show you guys.
I know we nearly based an entire video on a sign. Yeah. I'll put it on the screen, but our first attempt was not great. But talk about players and form. Part of your question to Eddie Howe, Nick Pope.
3-line attack on the goalkeeping situation really, because it was the biggest talking point I'd seen after Liverpool. A lot of people wondering why Nick Pope had came back in for Martin Dubravka. Again, my stance on it is I sort of understand why Nick Pope came back in, because for me, if I think Nick Pope is the better goalkeeper, I don't think that's up for debate. I just think the timing of it is the thing that I question a little bit of, because Martin Dubravka, he had a goalkeeper there who was in relatively good form, was excellent. Again, I think that's the first thing I mentioned, that 9-game winning run. I think obviously they conceded the 4 goals at Manchester City, but I just think in that period, having signed a new contract 3 days later to be out of the team, I just thought it was, if I'm Martin Dubravka, I feel aggrieved. And Nick Pope's came back in, and because of the Nottingham Forest goal, the opening one, when Nick Pope's positioning the other side of the goal and Hudson-Odoi takes a shot, the goal on Wednesday against Liverpool when the ball rolls through Sandro Tonali, Dan Burns' legs, and then Nick Pope gets down slowly. That shines light on Eddie Howe's call, because it was a difficult decision at the time, and because Nick Pope isn't performing, that's why we're still talking about it. I want to ask what Eddie Howe thought of Nick Pope's performance. He did admit there was some rustiness in there. I admitted that Martin Dubravka naturally is disappointed not to be in the team, and then I asked if there was a dilemma between the two this weekend, and Eddie Howe said that his decision wasn't set in stone, but if I was to hazard a guess, I think Nick Pope will continue, and I think Eddie Howe has made his decision now, and he'll stand by it, and he'll try and play Nick try and play Nick Pope into form ahead of the final. I would be a surprise now if Eddie Howe was to sort of do like a U-turn on his decision, because
it wouldn't look good. It wouldn't look good.
I think it would be productive. I think it would be productive in many aspects, because I don't think Nick Pope's looked comfortable. But yeah, you're right. Sorry, actually, but I think it would be good for Eddie Howe to sort of maybe recognise that early and go, he's not quite right. Let's get Martin Dubravka back and then give him 2 games before the final, because it's very tight, and that's what every decision now is always sort of based, and we're talking about every decision being ahead of that Carabao Cup final, because it's just so big.
I actually hate this goalkeeper situation. Like, I really hate it, because Newcastle last Carabao Cup final had a Nick Pope influenced and Martin Dubravka influenced goalkeeping disaster, which was completely out of Eddie Howe's control, really. Yet this time, Eddie Howe has all the cards, complete control, and has created another dilemma for Newcastle, really. In my eyes, anyway. He might just say, no, Nick Pope's my goalkeeper, I'm confident he'll be the man for the final. And it sounds like he's made up his decision on Nick Pope, and that's fine. He'll want that control. I just think it's really just through this decision is thrown the cat amongst the pigeons, and there's big questions, and that microscope on the goalkeeper position is just really sharply focused once again heading into a Carabao Cup final.
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
And it's completely through Newcastle. It's completely self-inflicted.
I just think if you look at Nick Pope and Martin Dubravka, and Peter might disagree, when they're both fit, Nick Pope is the better goalkeeper. I think he's proven that. I think since he arrived at the club has been an outstanding signing, but hasn't quite looked the same since injury last year. And I'm not feeding into this narrative that Nick Pope is conscious about his shoulder and things like that. But I think it's fair to say that since returning from that long-term injury, he hasn't quite looked the same.
No, I think that's
struggle for form, isn't making the saves that he had before that. So when he's not doing that, then you look at Martin Dubravka and go, well, actually, let's look at who's had the better 12 months, Nick Pope or Martin Dubravka. I would say Martin Dubravka.
No, he has.
Probably had not 12 months, probably had the better season.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But the thing with Nick Pope is, I'd go back his first 18 months at Newcastle. He saved things that he probably shouldn't have saved. Now he's letting in things he probably shouldn't let in. There was an area of the goal that Nick Pope just had. It was his domain. Yeah. Whereas now he's letting things in through the middle, or a Callum Hudson-Odoi shot, which was possibly in the corner, could have beaten him anyway, but not covering himself in glory with positioning, which is it's a goalkeeping basic, really, albeit it was a little bit unpredictable because Newcastle gave the ball away. But yeah, I have real concerns over Nick Pope, just because he's not top with his form.
And when he's not in top form, do you roll the dice and rotate again?
Yeah, I think. Or
do you give him time to try and get into top form? Now, I think Eddie Howe will do.
I think he'll do the same. Not that I necessarily agree with it, but I've always been a bit of a Martin Dubravka advocate. I was disappointed when he first lost his place to Nick Pope back in 2022, but I think Nick Pope probably proved that was the correct decision.
He did.
By Eddie Howe. So maybe Nick Pope will prove that once again. Hopefully he will, because I think Eddie Howe's sort of made his bed with the goalkeeping position, certainly for the Carabao Cup final anyway. And if he does a U-turn on that, that'll be an interesting video on Sunday.
Unless he throws Liverpool off guard.
Yeah, maybe.
That could be it.
Maybe it is, maybe.
Isak's fine. Martin Dubravka can start the final.
Just completely change.
Yeah, it's funny. It's just funny how everything happens now. We're just talking about the Carabao Cup final, but it is on the horizon.
Which was funny because Arne Slot and Liverpool don't seem like the
PSG for them.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's because they win things. They're going to win the Premier League this year.
We were speaking.
They're just winners, whereas we're just desperate.
Yeah,
we are desperate to end this 70-year wait for a domestic trophy.
We were speaking to people at Liverpool, some of the staff who are obviously Liverpool fans, and it's almost like an afterthought, this Carabao Cup final.
It is, I
won't do a Scouse accent, but we won it last year. Well, it'd be nice to win that again. Well, like, honestly,
everything to us. Everything.
We'll walk to Wembley.
It's literally, we'll walk to Wembley to win a Carabao Cup. Yeah. And do many other things as well.
Yes, which we won't get on to.
Yeah.
But did we talk about... No, we spoke about Sven Botman and Joelinton. But I think if they're back, that would be a big boost. That will be a massive boost for the Carabao Cup final. if we're talking about that. But like you're talking about that, Newcastle will be a very different beast for the Carabao Cup final. Hopefully, if they have a fully fit squad, they'll have key player like Sven Botman Joelinton, Alexander Isak, a completely different side with those 3 players in the team. And I think it would be good to see Sven Botman and Joelinton back because they've been out for basically the past month. So, yeah, fingers crossed, as Eddie Howe put it, we'll see them back involved. But on that note, we'll have a word from our sponsors. Here they are. Comply IT Limited. Worrying about disposing of your old IT equipment? Don't be. Comply IT handle everything. Secure collection, detailed tracking, and certified data destruction. That's Comply IT Limited. We've also got Mitigate. Mitigate enhances workplace mental health, helping businesses stay compliant, reduce absences, and unlock higher productivity, creating healthier, happier teams. And of course, our OG sponsors, Four Rivers Financial Planning. Four Rivers Financial Planning offer holistic financial advice for all stages of life, ensuring your plan remains robust and adaptable in the ever-changing world we live in. So yeah, those were our 3 sponsors. Links in the description below, as always, as well as the Geordie Journal shop. Hey, hoodie, man.
Oh, I know. I've tried to wear something a little bit smarter today. Yeah, it's starting to get sunny outside, so I'm going to ditch the hoodies.
It's still cold, though. Still a bit cold.
It's just gone spring. Oh, we're getting there anyway.
We're nearly there. Yeah. We're nearly there. But yeah, now our minds switch to the FA Cup. We've got to be up for the Cup, Jordan.
Well, I've got to be up for the Cup.
So what's your starting lineup?
What's my starting lineup? Pope and goal.
Okay.
As I say, I think that's Eddie Howe's decision now. I think stick by it.
Yeah.
Trippier.
Okay.
How much do you rotate? Because they have got essentially a week break before they play the next game. So
they can go strong.
Livermento, right? Share. Burn. This is based on Joelinton or Botman not being back, because I think I would maybe bring Botman in for Share, even though it's opposite sides, because
Eddie Howe doesn't like doing that.
No, doesn't, does he? What would it? Burn, Hall. I'll bring Miley into the midfield for Willock. I'll keep Tonali and Bruno in, and then the front 3 probably picks itself, although there'll be a few players that are chomping at the bit to get to play. Harvey Barnes is what I'm thinking of there. But I just think, I've strongest team I think he's going to go for, and I think the strongest team and the strongest front 3 without Isak, because I think Isak might miss this one, to be honest. Don't think they'll risk it, if there's any doubt there. So Wilson, Gordon, Murphy.
Right. As a 3. I've just realised we're probably best part of half hour into a video. People will be screaming, because I know fans have been very vocal about this player. We've spoken about Alexander Isak, Callum Wilson. Willisula, why is he not involved? Shouldn't he be getting a chance over Callum Wilson?
It's not going to happen.
It's not. Sorry, Willisula fans.
I get it.
We love Willisula every time.
We're wax lyrical all the time.
Yeah, particularly in the last round of the FA Cup. I thought he came on the other day and just, like Callum Wilson, just couldn't do anything really.
Yeah, hard game to come into.
Exactly, yeah. So, Willisula, could he be a lad on the right wing? I think it's Premier League opposition. It's completely different. I don't think you could probably get him on the pitch, but starting him, probably not. The rest of the team, yep. I'd start Sven Botman. If he's fit, start Sven Botman. He needs the games.
Or would you play a 3-man? You gone back 5?
Oh, it depends what you're playing.
At least when you've got these options, it does give you the option to.
I'd change it up. Go 3-man. Worked against Arsenal, didn't it?
Yeah.
So
basically, we don't know our team.
It's weird with the FA Cup. It's a roll of the dice. I'd start Sven Botman if fit. I wouldn't risk Alexander Isak if he's not absolutely 100%. I'd start Callum Wilson up front. It's important he gets back up to speed. And then I think the rest of the team pretty much picks itself at the moment. I would like to see Martin Dubravka in goal, but I don't think it's a wise decision for Eddie Howe to then do a U-turn and then potentially have to do another U-turn ahead of the cup final. I think it just looks silly. So yeah, stick with Nick Pope. Hope he rediscovers some sort
Needs
of
a good
form.
game.
Yeah,
Needs a good game.
Potentially maybe go Trippier right back as well.
Yeah.
That's the other one, because he's another player who needs games, and it's becoming a bit of a theme. The Newcastle players coming into the side not performing or
That's
making a mistake,
I think
things like that.
Probably Eddie Howe doesn't rotate as well as he probably should.
And he admitted that about Bruno as well. He said we've probably called upon him and depended on him too much.
I think it's not a criticism, Eddie Howe. I think because they haven't had Europe and stuff this season, they've probably had less games to rotate.
And there's such a disparity in the squad, where you've got, like, once you scratch the surface of the squad, it gets quite weak quite quickly.
Mm-hmm.
As you're finding out by the players Newcastle are letting go, particularly last year, where you've got, like, it's no disrespect, but Matt Ritchie's dropped to the Championship, Paul Dummett dropped to League Two. These were players who got minutes for Newcastle last season in the Premier League and Cup competitions. So that's sort of the level. Newcastle squad is gradually, the floor is slowly rising, but the ceiling is still very, very high. So on that note, we'll see you at St James's Park. It'll still be just us two, isn't it? Family man Liam Kennedy, enjoying half term and then enjoying the game with his kids on Sunday. So we'll be there, hopefully discussing a Newcastle United 5th round win over Brighton. And if you want to join us, you know where we'll be Sunday evening. And please remember to like, comment, share, subscribe, ring the bell. You'll get that video straight into your YouTube inbox, your notifications, all that. So yeah, we'll see you there, and thanks for watching.